Somewhere on a test track outside Shenzhen, a brand new Toyota sedan rolls silently past a row of camera crews. The badge on the grille is the same one your parents probably drove. The paint is Toyota white. The seats stitched to Toyota's obsessive tolerances. But pop the floor open and stare at the metal slab bolted underneath, and you'll find a logo that would have gotten an engineer fired in Nagoya just 5 years ago. BYD. Not a licensed component. Not a nameless supplier. The full blade battery pack, designed and manufactured by the exact Chinese company Toyota is trying to survive against in the world's largest car market. The undisputed emperor of hybrid engineering, the corporation that literally invented lean manufacturing, forced to stitch its rival's heart into its own chest just to keep breathing in China. On the surface, that reads like capitulation. It reads like the end of an era. Except it isn't. Not even close. What Toyota is actually doing is one of the most cold-blooded, precisely calculated moves in modern industrial history. It's buying survival with one hand while quietly cocking a much bigger weapon with the other. And once you see the full board, you realize this deal has almost nothing to do with today's cars, and everything to do with what Toyota plans to launch in 2027. So why did the most stubborn, most vertically integrated automaker on the planet swallow a piece of its rival's DNA? Is BYD's blade battery really the tank-like miracle its marketing claims? And what is Toyota actually building in the shadows while everyone's distracted by this headline? Before we go deeper, tap that subscribe button so the algorithm keeps sending you the real stories behind the global car war. Now, let's rewind and look at the pressure that broke Toyota's oldest rule in the book. For most of the last 30 years, Toyota's business model was almost boring in its consistency. Control your own supply chain. Perfect one process, then perfect it again. Sell the Prius to anyone who wants a hybrid. Sell the Corolla to everyone else. Treat pure electric cars with polite skepticism and quietly bet on hydrogen for the long game. That formula printed cash for 2 decades. Then China stopped playing by the old rules. By 2026, new energy vehicles, Beijing's official label for battery EVs and plug-in hybrids combined, punched clean through the 50% mark of all new car sales inside China. Not niche, not enthusiast, majority. And every legacy giant selling combustion or classic hybrid product watched their local numbers drop somewhere between 15% and 20% inside a single 12 to 18-month window. Reuters. China NEV penetration passes 50%. That's not erosion. That's a wall collapsing. Here's what makes this genuinely fascinating. This is the corporation that other automakers use to send delegations to study. And even Toyota's legendary playbook simply had no answer for a market moving in months, while its own product cycles moved in years. When the operator of the manual can't keep up with the game the manual describes, that tells you something bigger than one company's problem. That tells you the entire industry's operating system just got overwritten. Here's the number most business articles glide over. Inside a modern electric car, the battery is not one expensive part among many. It is roughly 30% to 40% of the total build cost of the vehicle. Get your battery strategy wrong, and it doesn't matter how good your seats are, how tight your panel gaps are, or how legendary your reliability score is. You're bleeding margin on every single unit before it even hits the showroom floor. Toyota was staring at a fork with 2 ugly branches. Branch 1. Build the entire battery empire from scratch. That means gigafactories at multi-billion-dollar price tags. Long-term lithium contracts locked in from Chile to Western Australia. Nickel and cobalt supply deals negotiated in some of the most geopolitically messy corners of the planet. And a manufacturing learning curve you cannot bribe or brute force your way past. You just have to grind through it. Cell by cell, year by year. Branch 2. Partner. Buy in. Use someone else's already working machine. The obstacle Toyota faced wasn't money. Toyota has money. The obstacle was time. And time is the one raw material no engineer, no CEO, no balance sheet on earth can manufacture. Every quarter Toyota spent slowly assembling its own battery kingdom was another quarter watching Chinese rivals ship yet another EV model into showrooms Toyota needed to defend. You can pour infinite cash into a gigafactory. You cannot buy back the years it takes to stabilize production, train tens of thousands of technicians, and validate cells to automotive-grade tolerances. And while you're doing all of that, the market you're trying to win is evolving in real time without waiting for you. That mismatch, that gap between what Toyota could build fast and what China needed right now, is exactly the pressure that eventually cracked the build everything ourselves doctrine. To understand why Toyota specifically picked BYD instead of, say, CATL or LG or Panasonic, you have to understand what BYD actually is under the hood. BYD was never a car company first. It was founded in Shenzhen in 1995 by a young engineer named Wang Chuanfu, who started out cranking out rechargeable batteries for Motorola and Nokia phones. Cars came later, much later, and that origin story matters more than any marketing brochure could ever explain. Because BYD owns its battery stack top to bottom, from raw chemistry inside the cell all the way up to the finished pack that bolts into the vehicle, there is no outside supplier in the loop. BYD company. About us. Now let's talk chemistry, because this is where the story gets interesting. Most premium EVs, Tesla, the European luxury brands, most Korean EVs run on NMC cells. That's nickel, manganese, and cobalt. NMC delivers serious energy density, which translates into more range per kilogram. But it has two big downsides. It's expensive because two of those three metals are geopolitically scarce, and it carries a genuine risk of thermal runaway when things go wrong. Puncture one badly enough, and you get a fire that firefighters will tell you is a nightmare to extinguish. BYD deliberately walked the other way. They doubled down on LFP, lithium iron phosphate, cheaper raw ingredients, massively more thermally stable, longer cycle life, measured in thousands of full charges, and critically, zero dependence on cobalt or nickel supply chains that come with mining scandals, price spikes, and political risk attached. Then came the packaging breakthrough that gave the battery its name. Traditional packs stack chunky battery modules with dead air between them, wasted space that adds weight without adding range. BYD threw that architecture in the bin. Instead, they built cell-to-pack technology, where long, thin blade-shaped cells are dropped directly into the pack without an intermediate module layer. The result? Roughly 50% higher volumetric energy density than a conventional LFP pack. In plain English, same physical box, dramatically more usable energy inside it. Stack the two advantages together, cheaper chemistry plus smarter geometry, and the numbers are almost embarrassing for the competition. The blade pack survives more than 3,000 full charge cycles, which translates to roughly 1.2 million kilometers of driving before you see meaningful capacity fade. Because it skips nickel and cobalt entirely, production cost lands somewhere between 20% and 30% cheaper than an equivalent NMC pack by BYD blade battery. For a company like Toyota that has spent 70 years practicing cost discipline and safety redundancy, that combination isn't just attractive, it's very close to being irresistible. If you want the single visual that probably closed this partnership inside Toyota's technical committee, search for the nail penetration test. It's the auto industry's version of a torture chamber for battery cells. Engineers charge the pack to full, then physically drive a steel nail straight through it, and watch what happens. A conventional NMC cell fails that test violently. Surface temperature rockets past 500 degrees Celsius in seconds. Then comes smoke. Then comes fire. Then in the worst cases, an actual explosion. Videos of it are the reason your airline won't let you check spare lithium batteries in your suitcase. Surface temperature settles between roughly 30 and 60 degrees Celsius. No smoke, no flames, nothing dramatic at all. Just a punctured battery that refuses to catch fire. For Toyota, that single data point matters more than any brochure spec sheet ever could. The Toyota brand has been sold on one word for 2 generations: reliability. Every quality decision, every warranty program, every conservative styling choice funnels back into that single promise. Putting an unstable battery under a Toyota badge would burn, literally and figuratively, decades of that trust in one viral news cycle. A battery that stays cool with a nail through its guts isn't just clever engineering. It's the exact permission slip Toyota needed to attach its own name to a Chinese-built power system without losing sleep at night. And as a bonus, because LFP is inherently cheap to build, it also lets Toyota fight in a Chinese price war that's currently grinding weaker competitors into dust. But John, this partnership is not some panic mode handshake signed last Tuesday. The foundation was laid quietly back in 2019, when Toyota and BYD jointly founded BYD Toyota EV Technology Company Limited, a fully 50/50 joint venture built specifically to co-develop electric vehicles for the Chinese market. The division of labor is elegantly clean. BYD contributes the EV platform, the blade battery pack, the electric motors, and much of the software stack. Toyota contributes vehicle-level engineering, ride and handling tuning, its own paranoid quality control regime, and, critically, the badge equity that decades of reliability built. The clearest real-world proof that this actually works is the Toyota BZ3 sedan, a car built purely for the Chinese domestic market. Strip its skin off, and you'll find BYD chemistry and electric drivetrain sitting underneath Toyota body engineering and crash safety design. The pricing tells you everything about the ambition here. The BZ3 launches from roughly 169,800 yuan, which is around 24,000 US dollars, an aggressive number for anything wearing a Toyota badge in that market. Buyers can pick either a 49.9 KLUP UHS or 65.3 KLUP UHS blade pack, delivering somewhere between 517 and 616 kilometers of range on China's CLTC test cycle, with DC fast charging from 30% to 80% in about 27 minutes. What makes the BZ3 significant isn't just that the car exists. It's what its very existence proves. Toyota did not have to burn 5 years reinventing an EV skateboard platform from the raw metal up. Toyota took a battery and motor architecture that Chinese engineers had already refined on Chinese roads with Chinese consumers, then wrapped it inside Toyota's own quality process and shipped a competitive product in a fraction of the standard development window. That is what adapting to Chinese market speed actually looks like when you refuse to compromise your own quality bar. Munted, this is where the old world auto industry playbook officially stops working. Toyota and BYD are, in every classical sense, direct competitors. They chase the same customers with overlapping product lines and overlapping price bands. And yet, here they are, co-developing key technology together. There's a word for this now: competition. Rival companies cooperating on specific pieces of the puzzle because pure rivalry, the we do everything ourselves and never touch the enemy mindset, has become a luxury nobody can afford anymore. And make no mistake, this arrangement is absolutely not charity from BYD's side either. Signing Toyota as a technology partner does something for BYD that no marketing agency could ever manufacture. It validates BYD as a legitimate Tier 1 global technology supplier, not just another Chinese domestic brand, but a company whose engineering the most conservative automaker on the planet is willing to bet on. That kind of endorsement is arguably worth more to BYD's overseas expansion plans than winning any single sales award. There's a second benefit too. Selling batteries to outside OEM clients like Toyota lets BYD monetize spare production capacity from its gigafactories that might otherwise sit idle. Every cell that leaves the factory wearing another automaker's product is still revenue in BYD's pocket. So when you cut through the surface headlines about surrender and humiliation, this partnership is actually something far more interesting. Two companies with radically different strengths, one dominating battery chemistry, the other dominating brand trust and manufacturing discipline, have quietly figured out that combining forces on the narrow slice where their goals overlap gets both of them further, faster, than continuing to punch each other in isolation ever would. So does all of this mean Toyota has quietly surrendered its identity as an engineering leader? That's the accusation floating around auto Twitter. And honestly, it's a fair question to raise, but the more accurate reading is pragmatism dressed up as compromise. Giving up a slice of self-sufficiency today is a very small price to pay for staying alive tomorrow in the world's most brutal car market. Because here's what's genuinely happening while the BZ3 quietly rolls off Chinese production lines. Toyota is pouring enormous R&D dollars into solid-state battery technology, with a commercialization target somewhere between 2027 and 2028. The specification targets Toyota has publicly telegraphed are almost science-fictional, driving range beyond 1,000 kilometers on a single charge, with fast charging capable of restoring most of that range in roughly 10 minutes. Solid-state promises everything today's best lithium chemistries can't quite deliver simultaneously. Longer range, faster charging, higher safety margins because there's no flammable liquid electrolyte to catch fire in a crash. And Toyota has been quietly building patent moats in that space for years while the world was distracted by the pure EV headline war. Now step back and watch the full strategy assemble itself. It's layered like an onion, and once you see it, you cannot unsee it. Layer 1. Use BYD's already proven blade technology to survive the immediate EV wave in China right now, without wasting 3 years chasing a battery supply chain from scratch. Layer 2. Keep the global hybrid business printing money. Toyota still sells more than 3.4 million hybrid vehicles worldwide every single year. A cash flow engine BYD and most Chinese rivals simply do not possess. Layer 3. Quietly funnel that hybrid cash into the solid-state moonshot, a genuine technological leapfrog that, if it lands on time, resets the entire battery playing field and puts Toyota back at the front of the industry on its own terms. That is not the strategy of a company admitting defeat. That is the strategy of a company buying itself the runway to win the next war rather than losing the current one with tomorrow's unfinished tools. Zoom all the way out, and the picture becomes even more revealing. This partnership was never really a moment of weakness. It was a deliberate, pragmatic pivot from a company that finally decided commercial survival matters more than institutional pride. It shows how spectacularly far BYD has evolved, from a small phone battery workshop in mid-90s Shenzhen into a global energy technology powerhouse that even the most self-sufficient automaker on Earth needs to lean on. And it shows a side of Toyota the public almost never sees. Ruthless agility when the numbers say survival is genuinely on the line. But the biggest lesson here reaches way past these two companies and this one industry. Supply chain flexibility has now quietly replaced absolute self-sufficiency as the actual competitive edge in manufacturing. The players still clinging to the old belief that every bolt, every wire, every cell must be built in-house are the ones most likely to get bulldozed by markets moving faster than their internal roadmaps. The players willing to borrow, partner, adapt, and even hold their nose while working with a direct rival. Those are the ones still standing when the smoke clears. Adaptability is now the winning move in this brutal transition to electric mobility. The automotive crown does not go to the company that stubbornly insists on forging every component alone as some point of principle. It goes to the company smart enough to use every weapon available to it, even when the sharpest available weapon happens to have a rival's logo etched into the handle. Pride does not defend market share. Adaptability does. If this breakdown gave you clarity you weren't finding in mainstream coverage, hit that subscribe button right now so you don't miss our next deep dive on how BYD went from being publicly laughed at by Elon Musk to becoming the company Tesla itself now buys batteries from. So here's the question I actually want you to sit with before you close this tab. Is this the smartest, strategic move Toyota has made in a decade? A masterclass in swallowing pride to win a bigger prize later? Or is it the first visible crack in the wall of an empire that once refused to depend on anyone? Drop your take in the comments below. I genuinely want to hear which camp you're standing in. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.